Hello and welcome to the Secret Society of Man podcast. My name is Zach. I'm here with my cousin Ryan. Today we're going to answer the question that's been on everybody's mind, which is, what class am I playing in hardcore World of Warcraft? It's a shaman. When I was a kid, I always played World of Warcraft. I've been a gamer my entire life. And so have you. And I played games with you, like, first-person shooters. I was big on Halo and COD. But the game that truly was the heroine to my video game addiction was World of Warcraft. Like, my dad would always play when I was a little kid, and I would sit next to him, and I'd watch him play. And then when I was probably, 6 years old, then I got my own account, and I started playing then. And it was a good way to bond with my dad. My sister would play as well. And World of Warcraft would end up destroying his marriage. He would be always playing. I think he got his computer shortly after I was born or whatever. And then my mom said, that was the day that everything went downhill, because you would always be raiding with the guild. Yeah. And, when you get into these MMOs, these things are like full-time jobs. You've never really played a game like this before, but, these are games that don't end. The Witcher, which is a big game that came out 5-7 years ago now or something like that. They say that's like a 80-hour game, and that's considered like a long game. But eventually you can complete everything in that. You can beat everything in Skyrim, or, even like the campaign in any first-person shooter. But 80 hours is nothing when it comes to World of Warcraft. Like, I've said this before on the podcast, but throughout my entire life, between just two games, World of Warcraft and then another one I played, Guild Wars 2, since I was about 15, just those two games combined, I have over 2 years worth of hours in that game. So, if you look at those games, they'll track how long you play it, and it's literally 7,000 hours per each of those games. And if you look at how many hours in a year or whatever, it's that ends up being almost 2 years of playtime. So it's I'm 27 years old. I've only lived 25 years in the real world. 2 years have been in Azeroth.
Which one is that? World of Warcraft?
Yeah, that's World of Warcraft, dude.
So, all right. Yes. When I would stay over at your house, one of my favorite things to do was play downstairs. Because downstairs was where all your stuff was. Your dad built the rock band, concert stage. Anything down there was the way to go. We're talking even before that house. I remember the house previous to that playing NFL Blitz.
NFL Blitz.
NFL Blitz, dude. You take their head off when you tackle them, But then the other one, I don't know if you remember this, but there was one game called Bloodwake. Do you remember that?
Dude,
one?
I recently watched. I looked up Bloodwake on YouTube, and I watched an hour-long video where this guy talks about that game. Yeah, love that.
Love that game. You can still buy it. I know, I think Xbox Game Pass either has it or you can buy it for dirt cheap.
Yeah.
So, but yes, the gaming thing. So I've kind of evolved as a gamer now, because recently having a kid, I really haven't had any time to play at all. But I used to World of Warcraft and stuff never appealed to me, because I was never about quests and stuff. Yeah. To me, it was it's a waste of my time. I'm bro, I want to fight a boss now.
Yeah.
I don't want to build up for 10 days and then go on some raid or something that. And the other thing I really struggled with when I was younger was inventory. Okay.
Oh,
so
yeah.
I couldn't move things in boxes here and combine them to make a shield, or that's not my thing. That's not what I did. And so slowly but surely, that's been evolving for me, because I've been watching a lot more gamers on YouTube where they're much more thorough in their gameplays. Not necessarily just with WoW, but with other Resident Evil games, or all that other stuff that's been coming out. That's really caused me to change the way I game. So when I play more of a strategic game, I guess you could say, or thought out game, I really go for the 100%. So I'm very much when I go in a room, I do all the drawers open. Yeah, so I check everything. I used to never be like that, and I actually found I enjoy the latter way more than before, just kind of like rushing through things, and you know what I mean?
And I guess that's the appeal of games like a lot of games that are popular like now, like any shooters or whatever. Like you can kind of just jump in and then you're playing. Like when it came to Call of Duty, there was like you'd level up and unlock things over time, you know, so you still got that progression. But like nowadays with like Fortnite and stuff, you have everything right away. You don't have to build up or level up anything anymore in these most popular games. You just download it, you jump right in, and you're off to the races. Because I think that faster pace is kind of what appeals to people now. Like there is no there's no young people that play World of Warcraft or like RuneScape. All the games that I play, because they are so slow paced and it takes a certain kind of patience. But so like I quit that game after a while. I mean, like I said, I was probably like 13, 14 when I stopped playing that game. By then, I had played it for like 8 years, and the game just got bad after a while. And then I played another one, Guild Wars 2, after that. And then for a long time, I was off of the MMOs just because like I didn't have a computer set up since I moved in with Christy and things like that. And I never had a good enough computer to buy like the newest games. And then like I feel bad just like sitting down and like I'll never be able to do a raid or whatever because it takes multiple hours and I don't have time just to set aside.
Roy Jenkins, you know.
Yeah. But so it's been a long time. And then one day my brother-in-law Carter reaches out and he's like, well, me and Veda are playing World of Warcraft again.
Veda's playing.
Yeah, so because she played when we were a kid, and she's played like the new version, like the modern version of WoW. But they like 5 years ago they released the classic version. Like this was like the way it was in 2005, right? The original game back when it was good. And then I played it a little bit, but then after a few years they released a new mode, like hardcore mode. So that means if you die, like you're done. Like your character is dead. And it's like a really very difficult challenge, you know. And that's what they were playing. I'm like, well, you know, I'll give it a shot. And I log in, and it's just like he got us back on the hero. So now me and my dad and my sister and him are all in like a group chat, and we're just talking about it all day. He's driving his snowplow all day, and he's never been an MMO guy, so he's kind of like you. He was always, you know, just like shooters and things like that. Didn't like modern WoW, but he is straight up addicted to classic WoW. There's something about that game, dude, where like everybody that played it, ever since it got bad, you know, right around the time that I quit, a lot of people quit. We've been chasing that same sort of feeling, you know, like no game could match it. And it's just insane how they made this game 20 years ago and they just nailed it. There's never been a better game since.
I feel like us as gamers, we're like people in their 70s that drove 50s and 60s cars where they're like, nothing will ever be the same.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
That thing lasted me for 40 years, bro. Like, the engine's still running longer. Like, you've seen that meme where it's like an old refrigerator and says it'll outlast you, your family, and, like, everyone on this planet.
Yeah.
And it's like a 1980 refrigerator. Dude, like, for some reason, there are times in our past where, like, things just, like, were perfect. Like, they got it right the first time. And it was sweet, you know what I mean? And it'll never top it. Like Halo. Bro, like I downloaded the Halo Master Chief Edition on Game Pass because it comes with my subscription. Dude, like logging into Halo 1 again it was remastered graphics, but same story and everything. I was like, wow, man. Like, I missed this.
Yeah, nothing will match those first 3 games, you know?
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Because there's so many Halos now, but you go and play Halo 5 or 6 or whatever. It's just something about it's not the same. It's because it's not Bungie anymore. Yeah. But it's just like they just nailed it back then, you know? And that's so funny, man, that comparison to like the classic cars. Yeah. Because it's really popular now where all these games are releasing the classic version that it used to be. And so like all the games out there that exist, like amazing games that cost millions of dollars to make, the only games that I play are the ones I've been playing for 20 years. Like I was a child. I was a child sitting next to my dad watching him play WoW. Murder. Now my child is sitting next to me watching me play the same game.
It's just a cycle, bro.
Yeah, dude.
Like, that's crazy, man. Does Blizzard still own WoW, or like who's now in charge of that? Okay.
It's still them.
Okay.
But it's like, you know, what's interesting is just how they lose it. You know, even with like TV shows, there's multiple TV shows that I really, really liked. But then right around season 5, is when every show gets bad. If any show goes for more than 5 seasons, that's when it falls off a cliff. Perfect example.
Yeah,
Walking Dead,
terrible.
Vikings, like Peaky Blinders. These are shows that like were really popular, but like after a few seasons they just fall off. Because like even if it's the same people making it, for some reason they just forget what made it cool, or like they're trying to emulate it, and then that makes it not authentic, and so you lose it. Same thing with video games. Like World of Warcraft is literally the same game, but over 20 years, 10 expansions or whatever, it's a completely different thing now. And it's like good in certain ways, but like something about the way that they made that first one, like just the pacing of it, just being slow paced, like everything's super rewarding. It just hits your dopamine like just right. Whereas now it's just like the social aspect is kind of gone. Like everything's so fast paced and in modern, like we just talked about. And so it just doesn't quite hit the same. But it's just amazing how that game has just captured so many people. And what an amazing ability that these companies have now, where if they have a game, all they have to do is re-release the one they came out with 20 years ago, and they just like do the same updates they did, and they're making tons of money off of this.
Yeah, I've been waiting for COD to do that with MW2, the OG MW2. Dude, now they brought back the campaign. They remastered the campaign and released that. But I can't imagine how many sales they would have if they sold a remastered online multiplayer version of MW2.
Just like Halo did.
Original.
With the Master Chief Collection, like all the old maps and everything. Yeah.
I would buy that. I'd buy it $150. I'd buy it.
Why don't they do that? That's like such an easy thing.
I remember being in your basement. It's good. I remember you straight up told me one time, at some point your dad just got annoyed as shit when I would stay overnight. And I remember you told me one time, you're like, yeah, you know why? Because every time it's your turn to play COD, you're just fucking yelling.
Yeah, you're loud. You're a loud kid.
Like, I'm sniping and you go, boom! You're like, dude, it's like 3 a.m. You know what I mean? So, like, dude, it was so much fun, man. I miss it. I miss those days. You can still play MW2, but it's full of, like... I took the risk a while back, and I re-downloaded it and, like, played. And it was... I only came across, like, 1 or 2, like, hacking lobbies or whatever, but they didn't touch me. I just exited out of it and left it alone. But, man, it was good for, like, to get a couple, like, original games that went the whole length and were normal. It was like, this is awesome, dude. Like, I miss this. The whole freaking, what do you call it? What's the skill-based matchmaking?
Yeah.
Dude, I can't stand that, dude. And it's a problem, man, because it's like, again, you get punished for, they want your KD to be like 1.0, right? That's what they strive for. So 20 kills, 20 deaths. Like that's horrible. Dude, I was going like 25-5 one time, and I straight up died like 12 times in a row. I like spawned and just dead. I'm like, what? Like, so anyway. So,
but that's the exact sort of thing where it's like, I don't know, that seems like a decision that's made by like an algorithm or an executive or something like that. Like, everybody needs to have the same experience, and that's what makes the modern games bad. Like, classic World of Warcraft, it seems like something that it was just a group of guys that were just trying to put stuff in the game they thought was cool. But then, now it's like such a massive company and so successful of an asset that like there's so many, like it's like all the decisions are made on a calculator, to figure out what's going to keep people playing, logging in the most amount of time. And that wasn't the primary concern in the past. They're just making a cool game. Same thing with like these, Call of Duty. It's like it was fun because it wasn't so fine-tuned, like it wasn't really balanced, but that's what made it amazing. You feel like you had to get good, and now they don't want people to be turned off by that. Like you should be able to enter a lobby with some kids or whatever and just destroy them. I remember us talking to, when we were little kids, talking to people on the comms.
Just like, dude, you can YouTube some like old lobbies, dude. It was hardcore.
Yeah,
bro.
that's what made it fun.
Dude, that's the things you remember, and same thing with, there was a huge following with the multiplayer for Halo, like the kill deathmatch or whatever they called it. Dude, that was huge for a long time. Halo 2 and 3 or whatever it was. But yeah, I mean, it's nostalgic. I'm glad you're back into the WoW. That's great. Good to hear.
Yeah, I'm hoping that I die though, so that like that way I'm discouraged because I've not died yet. Like they suck because they're just new to the game. I have 7,000 hours in this game.
Dude,
I know everything about it.
So were you able to? But you're saying like you couldn't pick up from where you were, right? Like
no, I mean I could, but then it'd be the new version of the game, which I don't want to play. Okay. So yeah, I started over on the old version, and I've yet to die.
Yeah.
But my only hope is that I get so far and invest so much time. Like to get to the max level, it takes about 6 to 10 days of playtime. So you need to be playing the game for 6 to 10 days.
Like full days.
Like hours in the game. Yeah. Whatever that ends up being. Yeah.
Hours.
Yeah. Probably 200 hours on average to get to the max level without dying, right? And if you die, like sometimes it'll tell you on the screen if someone dies and like how they die. Sometimes it'll be like, the max level 60. It'll be like, oh, this person level 54 just died, and it's just like, damn, like how demoralizing. And so I'm hoping that happens to me, so that way I'm so disappointed that I can quit again. Because it's like, I don't know, it's so much fun, but on some level, it's like, god damn it, like my life would be better off if I wasn't playing this, But it's like, we're all way too addicted to quit, so it's like, that's where we're at.
So. You said Carter was never really into it?
He was never into, MMOs, really. So
how did he get into it?
Well, Veda got him onto the new version of the game, and then he didn't really like it too much, but then I think he was just watching streamers do the hardcore version, and so they decided to try it, and then they all just, they all loved it, and he's definitely 100% in. But what's funny about him is, like, I don't know, I've always been, like, a closet gamer in a way, like, going through high school. I never really I would tell people play video games. Everybody played video games, but I wouldn't talk about MMOs and stuff because most people didn't play that type of game. And so I think to this day, I still kind of keep it to myself unless I know it's someone that also plays a game. But at my wedding, he kept making comments about it, and it's just like it's almost like he wants somebody to ask about it, and it's just like, can you just shut up? Do we have to talk about this now? I don't want to have to explain to everybody about how we're playing World of Warcraft. But I don't know. It was also interesting though, is I feel like now you don't have to worry about that so much. I would have got made fun of for it or whatever back in the day, but I feel like so many people play old games like that now, that it's accepted. Does, I don't know. What did Carly think? What does she think if you want some gaming time? Does she scoff at it?
No, she encourages it.
Okay.
Yeah. Just because of how stressful things have been at the house.
Oh, yeah.
She's like, whatever you need to do, I don't care. As long as it's, you're not shooting actual drugs, do whatever you need to do, right? So, today, for example, I had about an hour to myself. So I went downstairs. I recently purchased the new Dragon Ball Z game that I like. I like Dragon Ball Z, obviously. But it's actually a very extensive game, very extensive. So a lot of characters. Each character has their own storyline that you can do, and you can deviate from the normal story in the show and go somewhere else and get rewards for it and stuff. Anyway, so there's lots to do. So I did that for an hour today, and she encouraged it. She's like, if you want to go do that, and all that stuff. So yeah,
nice.
Yeah.
So I've been I feel like I have a lot of hobbies in my life or things that I do. Yeah. I do the podcast, I do jujitsu, I play video games. I have a lot of escapes, and so I feel bad sometimes, because I want Christy to have something to do to sort of unwind, but she doesn't really have anything. And I was just trying to think of what things women do, but I realized men have a lot of hobbies, the things they do on the side.
We're a simpler race.
Yeah, but women, I don't what do women do for a serious hobby? I feel like I just try so many different things or whatever comes to my mind. Does Carly have any hobbies?
So with Carly, not as much as the further we've dated and then married, it's kind of dropped off. But she used to be huge into knitting. She loved to knit, scarves and all that stuff. It just was good. She would turn on Friends on cable and then just knit, but like I said, she really hasn't done that in the last couple of years. Other than that, not really. We've talked about it before. she's not much of a gamer, but I've told her, like, there are games on Game Pass that I told her, like, I will, like, help you get through the intro, like, so you get comfortable with it, and then, like, just play. Like, I told her, I'm like, you'd be surprised, like, if you just give it a chance, just try it, you'd be surprised how much you might like it. Like, for example, I'm trying to push her into getting into Final Fantasy. Do you remember that game I brought up a long time ago?
Mm-hmm.
So Final Fantasy X was the last game before they did more of an open world concept where you run around and stuff like that. It's more of a turn-based
the combat's turn-based,
So I told her, I'm like, you should try that because it's a turn-based, it's more simple, it's easier to, like, get through. There's a couple, like, puzzle strategic things you need to do in there, but, like, for the most part, it's a fucking love story about, you know, this dude and this chick, and, like, you just, I mean, you have
she
to
can get into the story. You
know?
know?
Like I told her, like, there's a lot more than just fighting here. Like, there's an actual story behind all this stuff, and the graphics for back then were pretty damn good for PlayStation 2. At the time, so and now Game Pass, it's on Xbox, which is awesome. But
like a lot of women like Animal Crossing or like Sims, things like that.
Zoo
you
Tycoon
know, like,
or like some other like you know what I mean?
Yeah, like stuff that I don't know. You're just or like freaking Stardew Valley. Like a lot of women really get into that.
Yep.
So yeah, there's some options, but I don't know. Like I don't know if I would want Christy to be playing video games. I'm not sure if I'd want like. Yeah, I don't know. Like, would that be better if she was in World of Warcraft playing with us too, or not? It's hard to imagine that because she's just. I don't think Christy would ever try that. But
Carly's more of a. Carly likes to nap on the couch when I game. So she likes to have it like on in the background.
Yeah.
And she'll just nap. So like that's kind of like before we had Graham. That's what our hobby was for the most part, was like I'd play games, she'd just nap behind me on the couch. So, yeah. Yeah.
So like lately we've been kind of doing the same sort of thing. Like she'll be reading and then I'll be like playing a game or whatever. And it's like, if it's kind of conflicting because I feel like we should be spending the time together. Like we should be doing something together, like watching TV or whatever. But then at the same time, it's like, maybe this is just what you do is you just spend time alone together, like in the same room.
Yeah. What's strange is like, you're right, though, as far as, like, the hobbies thing. I think there are some women out there that have more hobbies, like hiking or, like, more outdoor stuff. But, like, I think a lot of women, I don't know if majority is the right word, but I would say probably more than 50% don't do hobbies. It's more of, like, hey, let's go get a mani-pedi and then, like, we'll see you next month. You know what I mean? Like, there's no, like, it's more of, like, let's meet up, talk, have coffee, and then leave.
Yeah.
There's nothing, like, constructive to it. But, like, I feel like gossiping or talking about things is constructive in their mind, right? Because they're more of a social creature than we are.
Yeah, and maybe they're more productive in their hobbies, too, because, like, or just the way they want to spend their time. Like, I feel like Christy, I mean, she's always, like, cleaning and stuff like that, and I just, like, I feel like she's always doing something productive, or, like, the biggest like time wasting thing she does is read, but even that seems like a fruitful endeavor. Like it, you know, it's good for your brain.
For you.
Whereas like guys will just do stuff that does not improve the rest of their life in any way.
Not a chance.
Like I'm just dumping hours into the garbage. Yeah. Like it's just crazy, bro. Like I could sit there and I could play World of Warcraft for 10 hours a day.
Yeah.
No problem. And like if I get bored of that, I could switch on another game. I could literally play video games for an unlimited amount of hours. And like no matter what goes on in my life, like there's always a part of me where I'm just like, you know, like I wish I just lived in a studio apartment with a mattress and like a beanbag couch and an Xbox, and like that's all I need. And you know, back to the days when I was 19, I would go to work and then I would come home to my apartment and then I would just game all day. Weekend comes around, bump 48 hours straight gaming.
Dude, I remember. Yeah, I mean, there is something to be said about like the single life. Like I remember when I first got hired at my first cop job, you know, I was single, only paying $500 in rent, living with 2 roommates, and I was just loaded with cash. Like I had so much cash because I was making so much money, and I was only paying $500 rent and maybe like $75 in phone bill. Like that was Those were basically my bills.
Yep.
And then gas once in a while, right? So I would come home and I would game for hours because I had nothing else I needed to do.
Yeah.
I went to work, made good money, came home, and that's what I did for a while, but at the same time, you do have to move on. I feel like there has to be a further purpose than that, right? Like,
Yeah.
I can't imagine, and we've talked about this off the podcast before, but like, I cannot imagine being in your 50s, 40s, 50s, and you have nothing but that same computer or like you got nothing.
Yeah.
Like, what have you done with your life? You know what I mean? What accomplishments have you achieved? You know
Yeah,
what I
that's
mean?
interesting because that does seem sad. Like eventually, like you would regret it, and we've talked
Yeah.
about that before, probably even on the podcast. But like, I wonder. It just makes me think sometimes, like what really drives us? Like, if we said that before, if women weren't a goal, like if we didn't have this desire to like be with women and then start a family and things like that, then we wouldn't try to impress women. Like I feel like how many guys would really care about advancing their career beyond the point of just being able to pay their bills and have those basic needs if we weren't trying to impress women and like increase our social status? Like I feel like that reward is what drives us to do these other extra things. Otherwise we all would just be doing like nothing. We like that's it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like if you're like asexual, like what motivates you to try to have a career or whatever? Like the only reason I try to have a nice things is to impress a woman in case one comes over. And then like, I guess that's why like whenever some men get married and that's kind of it. Cause if like they don't have that motivation, they're not chasing anything anymore. And then they'll just like not do anything. Yeah. And then the marriage falls apart after that. But yeah, like, do you think that you would still have the same drives for your career and stuff if you didn't have the instinct to try to like get a woman and like,
Man, I don't know. That's tough because there was a lot of like when I was going through the initial like to get my first job. When I got my community service job, just a CSO, at the time I was dating somebody, and that fell through pretty quick because my schedule filled up, and essentially part of it was I had to make a decision. There were other things about it too, but for the most part of it was I had to make that decision of, do I want to let this opportunity go, or do I essentially let it go? Now say that woman broke up with me, so it's not like I did that, but I had to make the decision of, okay, how hard do I want to try and like make an effort to maybe be more appealing and retry, right? And the problem is that I knew that if I gave up that opportunity, I would not be where I am today. Not a chance. Because you have to move up in the ranks essentially, right? And that is a great way to start. And how hard it is to even get that job, let alone a cop job that I've talked about before, there's not a chance that I would reverse that. But, at the end of the day, like you said, at some point in your age, you do start to think about, okay, now this is not everybody. Some people are cool not having kids and stuff. Some people just want to date, get married, and what are they called? Dinks or whatever? Adults. What is it? They're called dinks. It's like double income, no kids.
Okay, yeah.
Dinks, okay? There are dinks, okay? I have some coworkers that are dinks, and they're living life large, bro. Like they're like throwing cash, man. Like I'm talking like traveling all the time. Like Vegas twice a year. Like I'm talking they're throwing hundreds of dollars to play. I would never do that because we just can't. Like we got the kid and stuff now, but there's just something about it though. Like it just depends on what your preference is, right? Like you got to find that person that is willing to do that. And the problem is like, right? I mean, how many times when you're 18 to probably, for most people, not everyone, for the majority of people, when you're 18 to 24, 23, 24, you're not really thinking about like family stuff for the most part, right? Like that's not taking over your time for most people, okay? But eventually that tide starts to change a little bit, and you're like, man, like I would like to settle down at some point, and really kind of take on the next step of your life. And so there's a lot to be said about that. It can be hard. There are days that are hard, but very rewarding. Like I wouldn't reverse anything that I've gone through so far in my life. Not a chance. Wouldn't do it.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree with you there. And with the dual income, no kids, like I think if you're doing that with like a partner, then that can be rewarding. Yeah. But they don't know what they're missing, and maybe you don't know. I don't know. I would love to just be a fly on the wall of your fucking house, dude, with the way that this is going with your baby. I don't know.
Oh, no, you wouldn't, dude. You'd die.
I want to know, like, I don't know, like, let me ask you this. Are you having fun at all, or is it just a nightmare every time
Okay, so that's a great question. And to be completely honest with you, it's tough to say, but like the majority of our time, I'm not really enjoying it.
Yeah. Truly.
Like
it makes sense.
It's sad to say because I don't want to think that.
Yeah.
But it's fucking hard, dude. And it's like even, for example, like all the days that I was working, of course he had great days, right? Smiling. She would send me photos and stuff. But the past day and a half, basically since I got off work, past 2 days. So since I got off work Saturday and then all day yesterday, he's been hell. And I told Carly, I said, I'm starting to think like you're lying to me or something, because every time that I'm off, dude is not having a good time.
Yeah.
I have yet to see a day where he's like normal. You know what I mean? What's considered to be normal. And so right now, no, it's not really enjoyable at all. It sucks.
So like thinking about the dinks, I think a lot of those people, that's what they imagine having a kid is going to be like. And in some cases it is, you found out. But I think it's impossible to know the joy that comes with having a kid that doesn't have colic issues. Which this will resolve itself at some point.
At some point.
And then it'll turn around,
Yeah.
But it's just like, I don't know, man. Like, we just went on vacation, for our honeymoon, and it's like only a couple days passed and we missed Emery so much. Like we wanted to just go back and see her again. And it's just like so much fun it's just indescribable, just hanging out with her. Like yesterday I just spent all day with her and she's just hilarious. I don't know. Everything she does is just so funny.
Yeah.
And those people that decide to not have kids will never experience that. Yeah. But it just seems like immature, though, to me in some way, to just be like, yeah, I'm not going to ever have kids. I don't know. Like, I guess you don't have the duty to have kids, but it just is a weird thing when you run into somebody like that just decides at a young age they're not going to do it.
Yeah, it's interesting because to me, it's a big decision to make to not to have kids. Like, that's a big decision because I'm honestly, like, I think about your family, like, lineage, I guess you could say. Like, I'm the only one on my dad's side, as far as between my aunts and uncles on his side. I'm the only male. So, like, as far as, like, the Sisterman name being passed along, like, that's, like, I'm literally the only male from my grandpa's side.
Yeah.
Between his kids. That's it. So there's kind of that, I wouldn't call it pressure, but more like, hey man, if you don't have kids, like this side of us is gone. Like there is no more, like, there's other Sistermans, right? There's other that. But as far as us, that chunk, gone. There is no more.
My grandma's family, like her maiden name, Lensmeyer, is going to be gone because, like, her siblings that had kids had all, all the the ones that have the last name are all women.
Yeah.
They all had just daughters or whatever.
Yeah.
And then the only one that is left it doesn't have any kids. He's in his 60s and he has no kids or whatever. He's probably not going to have any. And so, like, that's just it. And then for me, if I have another daughter, then, like, you know, the only hope is my cousin Jake. And if he has daughters, then, like, that Campbells are done.
Died out extinct, bro.
Yeah, pretty much. Because, like, yeah, because Veda, her son is Bershin, and that's it. So it's weird to think about. And I wouldn't care about that too much. Like, if that happened, I wouldn't be that disappointed. But I don't know. All I can think about is, like, if I didn't have a family right now and then, like, I would go to family gatherings and stuff, like, I would feel so dumb. Like, I just feel, like, behind.
Well, and I think Ben Hur talked about that a little bit, right? Like, he was saying, like, when you start getting to this certain age, like, life kind of starts to move on, right? And, like, I feel like it would be very hard to observe that. It's hard to feel like the guy standing in the corner of a room with a drink in his hand watching everyone else have fun, right? Like, you're not part of it anymore. You're just kind of, like, there because you haven't changed anything about your life, right?
Yeah.
It's like being a pizza delivery guy, like what have you changed about your life? You've been there for 30 plus years, right? Like, it's the same thing every time, you know, same paycheck, like, it's just constant struggle, and it's tough, man. Like, in some people that causes FOMO, and then they do go out and find somebody and start a family, right? But it's rough.
At the wedding rehearsal, he mentioned, because, like, everybody there basically had a baby. Like, there's tons of babies, because we're all kind of at the same, everyone I know is at the same point as me, basically. And he did admit, he's like, you know, I see what you mean about how it's nice to do that when everybody else that you know is doing it. Because it's like, if he eventually settles down, then he's going to have a kid, and, like, my kids will be adults by then, you know.
Well, yeah, if
you know,
that long,
yeah.
yes.
And so it's like, and then, like, he's not going to know anybody. He's not going to be able to have that same experience. So it'll be different, I guess. But yeah, I don't know. I guess we covered a wide range of topics there. Want to talk about the news really quick?
Sure. So there's a couple things that we can bring up. I mean, so first we'll cover probably the one, well, two stories technically, but one that really stuck out was the plane crash in D.C., right? Killed over 40 people. I think it was like 47 or something like that, confirmed. Killed everyone, but I think they're still working on the final count or whatever it was. It was like 72 people combined between the helicopter and American Airlines plane that crashed. So from what I gathered from it was essentially the plane was supposed to be landing. The plane was doing everything that it should have been doing. And it sounds like something was wrong, or somebody didn't follow the rules on the helicopter, because the helicopter just, like, ran into the side of the plane, basically. So what was interesting about that, though, is, you know, they didn't really release right away. They didn't really release, like, what did the air traffic controllers notice this? Apparently they did. They said something along the lines of to the helicopter, "What are you doing?" Like, before the crash happened. Some people, you want to go down conspiracy. Some people think it's a terrorist attack because it's in D.C. It's like right after Trump got in office. Dude, Shane, you've seen Shane Gillis, right?
Not regarding this topic.
Okay.
But
well, no, but, like, just his jokes,
yeah.
right? Mm-hmm. Have you seen his George Washington joke before?
Just talking about this crazy guy. Yeah.
I thought I was going to see Trump fucking Captain Morganing it on a rowboat on the river going to see if these people are okay, right?
Yeah.
Like, I thought for sure it was going to be like that.
Why would you think that? You thought he was going to just show up and just...
He's a patriot, dude. Like, I thought he was going to be like, we're going out there and we're saving them. You know what I mean?
That really? I would never think that about Trump, bro. That's hilarious. That's crazy.
Anyway, so the initial video was this very large, like, ball of fire, right?
Yeah.
In the air. So that's the first story, and we'll touch on that again in a second. But then, like, a day and a half later, there's a fucking plane crash in Philadelphia And this dude's at like a Cane's restaurant in the drive-thru. I don't know if you saw this video.
No.
Looked like a hellscape. Looked like California moved to Philadelphia. And he's just swearing like a sailor. And he's sticking his phone through the window. And there's sparks, flames everywhere in the air. And this like kind of like a shorter bush plane ended up crashing into the street or whatever, and obviously killed them. But dude, I'm like, now's the time to buy tickets. Like, now's the time to buy airlines, especially American Airlines. Okay?
Yeah.
Now, with the American Airlines, there was some pretty precious cargo on those planes. I think the majority of the U.S. figure skating team was on that plane, so that sucks. And I can't imagine how that phone call is going to be to Team B. And you're like, hey, you're moving up. And they're like, oh, great. Well, it wasn't based off skill, bro. It was based off the team died, like in a plane crash. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, there's that. I mean, what were your thoughts? I mean,
well, pretty much the only thing that I had seen about this was all like just weirdly politicized stuff. Yeah. So like all the headlines, depending on, again, where you look, the left biased ones were saying that this is Trump because he fired a whole bunch of people from like, I don't know what bureau, the Bureau of Airline Controllers or some shit. So like they say that he fired a bunch of people and cleared out a bunch of people, and then right after that happened, then now all these crashes start happening, which just seems a little weird. Like, did he fire all the good air traffic controllers?
Right.
Like,
so here's the thing.
Yeah.
Now, I can't confirm this because I haven't read this myself, but I heard from somebody that supposedly read an article that Trump that Trump blamed the Biden administration because he claims that DEI played a role in this.
So
crash.
that was the other side. So I was going to say, then if you look at the right side, they say that it was all a DEI hire, and that just seems fucking dumb too. Like, it just seems like both sides are just using this to blame something that has nothing to do with it. Like, come on, like we talked about DEI a couple weeks ago, and even though like I think it's good to fight against that practice, to say that that they were DEI hires and then that's what caused this, like who was the pilot? Were they DEI or was it the air traffic controller?
Right, yeah, like
was disabled. Like I don't get it. Like it just seems dumb, you know.
Stephen Hawking running the traffic control, you know. It's like
but like what is the truth? Like why does that got to be brought into it? Like everyone's just trying to use it for their agenda, and so that kind of reminded me though is further beyond these plane crashes, like a lot of crazy shit's been happening since Trump became president. And it's like, we talked a little bit about the immigration things that's going on, and like a lot of things I think are what people voted for, but then people are uncertain about like, all the tariffs that are happening and
which we'll get to,
the stock market's crashing. And so there's like, I don't know. I think it's going to be a crazy, probably at least a crazy year because you have crazy shit that Trump is doing, and we'll see how it pans out. I think things are going to get worse before they get better. But hopefully he actually has like a solid goal and he's not just being an egomaniac like people are trying to make it out to be. But it's hard to know exactly what the goal is there. But then I just feel like also people are just reacting in a crazy way. Like I think honestly just all the craziness is making people commit more crimes and just do more unpredictable things. And so I don't know. I have mixed feelings about how things are going to be the next 6 months.
Yeah, I think you hit it right on the head. I totally agree. I think the first full year of him being in office, so by January or February of next year, I think it's going to be a very tumultuous year. I think there's going to be a lot of things that, he's very much rip the Band-Aid. Rip it off. It's going to suck kind of a thing. But, he doubled down. The tariffs. He straight up said, like, in fact, I think we'll get to that. China, Canada, and Mexico, all tariffs, right? Now, what's interesting is Canada, for the most part, is cordial with us, right? Like, we have no issues with Canada. Really never have. Now, I don't know the exact numbers on this. I'm sure it's public data we could find somewhere else, but I remember Trump was saying, he's like, we literally give them billions of dollars in subsidies every year. Canada. we give them billions of dollars. And he's like, yeah, he's like, I called Trudeau and I was like, why are we giving you these billions of dollars? And Trudeau's like, I don't know. He's like, I don't know either. And so he's basically like, not happening anymore, and then puts 25% tariffs on Canada, And
it's like, what is he hoping the reaction is to that, do you think?
Well, so there was a follow-up. I read an article today from the Wall Street Journal that said Trump suspended the tariffs between Canada and Mexico for 30 days. Supposedly, there was a deal done between Canada, Mexico, and us. And it sounds like Canada is stepping up their border control to the north for the whole country. And there's other things that they're doing with the fentanyl crisis, I guess, to help out. I don't know what Mexico's doing to help. But that's kind of the point of, like, the tariffs is if you want the tariffs off, you better be doing stuff for us, right? Like, and the other thing is the whole, like, billions of dollars in subsidies. What I know is Mexico needs us. They need us more than we need them economically. So, like, they can put 25% tariffs on us. That's fine. But, like, as far as, like, goods and stuff, China and Canada and a couple other, like, Middle Eastern are way more important to us than Mexico. So they're more willing to bend to what Trump wants than what Canada would do. But that's what I read today. It didn't go too much into, like, what the full deal was. I don't know if we're giving something in return to help with that. But that's kind of what it is.
Yeah.
I mean, when Trump was in office the first time, he had tariffs on China. And they were struggling 3 times as much as our economy was when Trump was in office. And, in fact, it started to cause a lot of uproars. I wouldn't call them, like, uprisings, but people in China were getting pissed because things were getting so damn expensive. They're like, we can't keep up with this, So,
yeah, well, I think, good and bad's going to come from it. He's not going to nail it on every decision, right?
No.
Because with how much stuff's going on, I mean, some stuff's not going to work and some will work. But
yeah.
I do think that even if it is a rough term or whatever, then I think at least things are going to be shaken up, and that might allow the next president to kind of have a calmer term, but then just kind of let the dust settle on things, and over the long term, we might be in a better spot.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think we're going to learn a lot from this next few years. But
what I respect about Trump is he is much more of a kind of like old school America is a superpower, right? Like, whereas when Biden was in office, we kind of I felt like we're France.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? We're just fucking there. Like,
Yeah.
we're just like breathing air and running an economy, which wasn't really running anyway. But now that we're in office, or now that Trump's in office, he's like, hey, world, like, we're here, we're not fucking around, and we're one of the most powerful countries on earth. So, like, either help us out or don't and pay the consequences, right?
Yeah.
So whether that's good or bad, war can happen from that, and it might. Wars might start by the time his term is done, but we'll see. And that all depends on. I don't know. I'm not even afraid of China with war. Like, I'm sorry, but, like, their population is dying. They don't have nearly as much. Right now, they don't, as far as technologically goes, our military is way better. Mexico is what is that military? It's basically their police force, which is, I guess, I don't know what that is. Canada's respectable, but they've never really, I don't know, done too much. To kind of put it in a sports perspective, the Wild played in Ottawa a couple nights ago, and they actually booed when our national anthem was. So, if that says, like, kind of how things are going, that's interesting. But I think, honestly, this is what people voted for, right?
Yeah.
People are tired of just getting destroyed, where Trump's like, no, we're not doing that. Like, 0 cents for us. Like, You could have gotten away with it with Biden or any other Democrat or whatever you want to call him. But with me in office, shit's not happening. You know, like, you're going to do what works for us or leave.
Yeah, and at least, I mean, whether he has a good plan or not, I mean, I think people are relieved that stuff is happening.
Yes.
You know,
Yep.
it's a lot of it's like, well, I guess we'll see where this goes, you know, but it's like at least something's happening.
It's going somewhere.
Yeah, whereas
You know?
we definitely didn't get that feeling the last 4 years.
Yep. So there's a lot to move here, a lot that's going to come about from this. But I'll say this, man. Look, Trump is, if the deals are made this quick between Canada and Mexico, I mean, 2 days ago, Trudeau was like, oh, we're going to come with swift and harsh punishment on the U.S. Now they want to make a deal with us. It's like, this is why Trump is good, because he's been in business and he knows, like, where to push the buttons. And I guarantee you, Trump's like, look, you can waive that 25% on us all you want, but we have ways to get around your economy, your goods to give to us, and you're going to lose, like, in the long run. So you might as well work with us. I guarantee you that's how that conversation went.
Yeah.
Guaranteed. Trump, I guarantee you, laid it out over the phone. He's probably like, here's your numbers, and here's what's going to happen once, you know, give it 2-3 years. You're going to be broke. There's going to be nothing left of your country, you know. So,
All right. Well,
Anyway.
I guess just like last time, I'll end it by saying we'll see where it goes.
yeah.
So-
All right. Okay.
Yeah, well, thanks for watching, and check us out for shorts on various platforms. If TikTok still exists, then we'll be on there. I'm not sure where that's at.
Yeah.
But yeah, thanks for watching. If you made it this far,